Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. I hope you're all doing really well, and I hope you're excited for this show because we're going to dive into a topic that I have not yet discussed on the podcast in 5 years. Today, I am joined by my guest, Maria T. Rothenburger's PhD. She is a professional counselor, fertility coach, and spirit baby communicator who helps people go from harried, overwhelmed, and obsessed with fertility to peaceful, hopeful, and connected to the greater purpose. She is also the author of the #1 best-selling book, Transcending Infertility: 9 Keys for Improving Fertility, Creating Miracles, and Being a Better Human. And as well, she happens to be the host of the Miracles Happen Fertility podcast, which I was just recently on. She has been a therapist for 16 years. She came out in 2020 as a psychic medium, and she of course specializes in spirit baby communication. Maria, it's so good to have you to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for that lovely intro, and thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. We had so much fun on your podcast recently, and I'm excited to finally be in this seat and get to talk to you because I am fascinated with your work and what you do, because for infertility is becoming a very, very common issue with women these days.
Unfortunately. Yes, it is.
And there
and
are
men. And men.
And men. Absolutely. So, have you always known you were going to kind of be doing this line of work, or did it kind of creep up on you?
Well, I knew that I was going to be doing psychotherapy back in like 5th grade, but I never, ever thought fertility issues. I didn't even know that was a specialty within counseling. But the spirit work, hell no. Never, ever thought that I would do anything like that.
So how did that all come about then? Because that's not something, did you just fall into it, or like, because it's not like you just choose one day, I think I'm going to start this.
Right. No, I didn't choose it at all. It chose me. One of those stories, right? So I'm not one of those people who saw dead people when they were kids, or things like that. I just never experienced that. But during my fertility struggles, I began meditating a lot. And apparently, when I talked to another psychic medium, she told me that that's likely what happened. So I was meditating a lot, and I had resolved my fertility issues. I had moved on to helping others with their fertility stuff. And I was working with a client who had lost, unfortunately, her twins. I want to say like 3rd trimester or late 2nd trimester. Yeah, it was an awful story. So I was just doing traditional psychotherapy. We were doing some grief work, and all of a sudden, never before had this happened in my life. Her babies just swooped in and were like there, and especially one was like talking to the point where it felt like if you and I were in a counseling session, like a third person was standing right here talking in my ear while I'm trying to work with this person.
So nearly impossible to get that done.
It was incredibly distracting. But I am in the middle of a session.
So,
I
okay,
need to
what were your
honor.
first thoughts
Yeah.
then when it started happening? Like, what were you actually thinking in your own mind as you're trying to have a normal, normal session with your client, and then you have this happening?
Well, I'm not a hugely like religious person. I am spiritual, but I was never really that much into, all of this stuff. I'm very sciencey, fact-based, give me evidence. And so what my first thought was, well, my brain is doing something crazy right now. What is my brain doing? Maybe I'm over empathizing. Maybe I'm over connecting with this client. There's this counter transference thing that we have to talk about, in a training situation with counseling and psychotherapy. I just thought that there was something, reasonable, that my brain was malfunctioning. So I thought, right? So I just chalked it up to that. And I attempted to refocus in this grief counseling session. Of course, I needed to honor her and create the space for her to experience what she was experiencing. So I just thought it was the session. I was having countertransference issues. I was over connecting, over empathizing. That's what I thought. And I left it at that, finished the session. The problems came when I left work that day. So I left work, I'm driving home, babies are still talking, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, brain, knock it off. You need to stop this. You're going crazy. You need to let this client go. Just go home, do your thing. Well, I'm listening to a podcast and it keeps switching from podcast to podcast and episode to episode. It just keeps switching. It's like freaking out. And it landed on this podcast episode where the host says, it landed right there where the host said, "You need to get over yourself." And I went,
oh my goodness.
Oh, shit. What is going on? I just kept driving. I ignored. I went home. Over the next 2 weeks before I saw that client again, stuff was moving in my house. Things were like electronics and stuff were still like being screwed up in my house. On my commute back and forth from the office, same thing was happening with the radio, with my podcasts, with my MP3 player back in the day. That's the iPod, because this is that long ago. And I had to then own that there was something else happening here. I was so anxious over this, and no, I'm normally a very chill person. I was so anxious. The podcast that they landed on, "You Need to Get Over Yourself," I actually called her. I called her show. And I'm like, this is happening. Can you explain? She was like, "Yes, I can explain this." So she proceeded to tell me that's the person that I talked to about why this might be happening. She proceeded to tell me that meditation likely opened up some kind of connection to the other realm, that I probably already had this connection. And if I talk to my family, it probably runs in the family. Lo and behold, I talked to both of my parents they divorced when I was like 3. Both of them said, "Oh yeah, that's in our
Totally
family."
normal.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can't believe it slipped your mind.
I'm like, this never came up. Why? So I was receiving some validation, that this was a thing, that this is happening. And then I just sat on that information for like 7 or 8 years before I quote came out.
Wait, so did you never even brought it up with your client that?
Oh, good question. Yes, I did, which is technically not something that one should do under licensure. But I was really clear with her, and I thought that it was helpful for her, and it could be healing for her. So there's more validation. So I talked with her in the next session. We were doing regular grief counseling again. Babies are blah, 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 blah. And I said, "I need to pause for a moment. How open are you?" And she said, "I'm very open." And I said, "Okay, if you're okay with this, I'm going to stop counseling right now." And she was like, "Why are you kicking me out?" Like, She had this look on her face.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, look, there's something going on that I can't explain. And I just need to tell you what's happening in case this is helpful for you. That's always the ultimate goal, by the way. It's always to be helpful,
Of
right?
course.
Always. So I asked her permission. Is it okay to talk about this thing that's happening I've never experienced before? She said, yeah. So I told her what I was experiencing. The babies told me they were ringing the doorbell in the middle of the night, that they wanted her to invite them in, that they were, once she invited them in, this was like over several sessions. Once she invited them in, they talked about knocking pictures off the wall. They talked about moving things to be kind of funny. Like, I thought I put that thing there, but where did it go? That was me. I moved it. And she was like, yes, yes, yes. They told me about a little memorial that they had in the nursery, what would have been the nursery, involving 2 teddy bears. She's like, yes. These are called Molly bears, by the way, if anybody is ever interested. This company creates bears that are the same weight as the babies when they passed away. So you can hold them. It is so special and important work. So I believe there's a pretty big back order, but those are available.
Wow.
So anyway, mollybears.com. So she had ordered these bears, and I didn't know about that company. I learned about it from her. She said, yes, that's a thing. So we kept talking about this validation, what they were telling me. Then we were able to get to why did this have to happen? Now, all the while, I'm still, writing the line between like clinical therapy and this psychic medium crap that I had no idea what I was doing.
Psychic medium crap.
Yeah, crap. At the time, it was total crap. Like, I'm like, well, what is even happening? I'm just like saying what the babies are saying. I don't know what the deal is. Please, take this with a grain of salt, maybe like a whole cup of salt, because I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And they were like, great. She brought her husband one time. So all in all, it ended up being a very healing experience for them. Now, I sat on that for years. There was no way that I was going to go into that work. No, no way at all. And I finally, over a period of time, got over myself. Because, when you have a clinical license,
I get it.
Oh my God, it is drained
a lot of pressure.
Into you. Yes, yes. It is real. I mean, it is just, they are really come down on people really hard who do alternative or complementary work. And so I stayed away from it. I just didn't want to do that. But then my focus changed, because my focus was me. What if I take my license away? What if me? Now my focus switched to, wait a minute, what about them? What about everybody else? Duh. And that's what the focus of counseling is anyway, is to be helpful and help, encourage people to create their own healing experiences. And so I began to do some training. I just did general psychic mediumship training at first, just to dip my toe in. And at a few of those trainings, several people said to me, you're going to be doing this work. And I'm like, that's crazy. I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
But then when I really switched into, no, I really need to be helpful to people, I did specific spirit baby medium training. And July 2020, I set up a shingle for doing this actual work.
Wow. Did the whole thing that happened in 2020 like have anything to do with it? Like you being at home more and like having more time to think about stuff? Like, was there any aspect of that, or was it already kind of underway before the whole kind of stuff happened?
Frankly, in 2020, for a mental health counselor, it was not sitting at home having a lot of space and time to think about things. It was like, oh shit, the world is ending. Help me. I was completely overwhelmed with
so you
mental
didn't
health
have time to
clients
think about. So when did this kind of kick in that you were like starting to really kind of try before you actually came out in the July 2020 and said, okay, this is what I'm doing?
I think honestly, to answer your question in like the opposite way, right? So like, it wasn't that there was space created for me to think about it. It was, oh my God, this is becoming too much. I
Oh,
need to consider doing something else.
yeah. Okay. All
This is
right.
becoming completely overwhelming. And even though I know what I'm doing, it's almost like been there, done that. You
Yeah.
know, I've done the work that I wanted to do in that realm. And now I'm thinking about other things.
Okay. So you
And
were able to
so,
shift because that's where your soul was wanting you to go anyway.
yeah, I was being pushed, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
I was
Okay.
being like pushed and pulled and being like, go here.
So
Yeah.
then you've got a couple of years of solid work here then where you've been working with clients and listening to the different stories of all the different spirit babies. Um, and I guess there's so much I'd love to talk to you about this. And the big one that I think is probably the one, and I just want to apologize to the audience. I've got people cutting down tree limbs outside my window right now, and they're grinding them down. So I'm doing my best here, but
yeah. And me too. I've got construction people. So yay for the audience listening to our
when it
real life stuff.
comes to miscarriage, there's a lot of grief and loss there. And a lot of times women, I mean, I've been through a miscarriage.
Yes.
What did I do wrong? Is there something wrong with me? Can you kind of go into some of the messages that spirit babies have brought through for women and your clients?
Yes. And the very first one is it has nothing to do with you. That's the very first, most prominent message. Gosh, there are various reasons, but some of the top reasons are there was a genetic anomaly that was perhaps not detected. One of my favorite, and I don't know why this is a favorite, but I feel like it's so powerful, that the body, there was an issue with the body. I would have survived. However, I would not have survived very long. And I needed to protect you. It was better now than then.
So there was something wrong with the baby's body eventually, and so it would have been more grief than
yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. I just find that, I think maybe this is why I find that babies are so protective of their prospective parents. When people think of babies, they think of this little creature who doesn't know a whole lot. No, they are a full soul. They know way more than we do. They can see things going on. They plan their life. They choose their parents. And so they're not these blank slates, that we have said in the past that they are. They are beautiful, amazing souls who are coming with a purpose. And so anytime that there is an issue with the body that they're going to come into, or it is a detriment to the mother's health, or there is going to be an issue in the future potentially between the partners, something like this, then the soul can choose. The soul can choose to leave or not ever inhabit the body.
Okay. So there's a lot of different reasons that
so many.
Wow. So they can actually opt out if they think there's a lot of trouble with the relationship of the parents, and they're going to separate. Maybe it's a lot earlier than usual, or maybe just at all. Like they don't want that. There's just
right.
So many different things.
Right. And now, of course, separation is fine.
Yeah.
But if it's detrimental to the baby's life plan,
exactly.
then they will make a different choice and come back later. Or, for example, I've worked with somebody where the baby was actually tied to the spouse, and so they couldn't come through to the client because they were tied to the spouse, and they were going to separate. And so the baby is tied to the spouse. I need to stay on this side and meet their new partner and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, so, really? So, this is so interesting. Okay. Yeah. So the baby could actually be more preferential to either the mother or the father, not necessarily both at the same. And
right.
Wow. Okay. That is
right.
Really
because there are lots of reasons, but, generally we travel in soul groups. And so, when you are with your soul group, when there's a disconnect down here, but you need to be in this soul group, then you can't come through this person's body, because, do you know what I mean? It's like there's a
Yeah.
disconnect there, and they need to come through this side, this lineage, this, for whatever reason. Sometimes it can be different, but that's been my experience.
Okay. That
Yeah,
makes a
there
lot
are
of
a variety
sense.
of
Yeah,
reasons.
there's so many reasons. And so, okay, well, speaking of that, then, if that spirit baby is tied to that parent, how long have you seen, like, I'm sure there's a range, but how long will a baby try to come through with that parent if possible?
Oh gosh, yeah, there is a huge range.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. I mean, I've been doing this work for 2 years. And so there are some people, gosh, most people have shown me babies now. They've sent me pictures of their babies. But some people are still waiting. And I've had cases where people have come back for a spirit baby session again, and the soul that we originally talked to has actually moved on and chosen a different family again, a variety of reasons. Another soul wanted to come in first, but that one needed to be firstborn, so now they've chosen another family. It's like it's complicated.
Wow. Wow. So it even goes down to, like, I need to be firstborn, I need to be secondborn,
Yes.
or
Yes.
wow. Okay.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
have you ever had anyone come in where it's like they had a miscarriage from like years ago and the spirit baby's still around?
Oh,
Like,
yes.
okay.
Yes. And sometimes they'll say, is it still okay for me to come? I've had that where I've worked with folks who have had abortions decades before, and they still carry, questions about that. And the same soul is still around and saying, are you okay if I come? And so, yes. And others move on. I have a spirit baby up there, and here's it in
Yeah.
reverse. I don't want any more children. And so I say, no, thank you. And she is up there helping me connect to other spirit babies. I've asked her if she wants to move on to another family someday, and she said, yeah, I might. Yeah. But for now, she's there, helping me with other spirit babies.
Oh, wow. So yeah, well, you brought up the abortion thing because that's a very sensitive subject. And
Yes.
when I was 25, I had one, and
Mhm.
it was a situation where the father wasn't even in the country. Like, we had a long
Mhm.
distance relationship, and he had just broken up with me right before I found out.
Mhm.
And it was just
Mhm.
this really awful situation. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I'm like, I just knew I couldn't, I knew. And I'm so,
Mhm.
I have my own feelings about the whole process itself. But back then I knew it was the right decision for me. And of course, you carry a lot of guilt. You carry a lot of guilt around
Yeah.
that. And I don't think that's spoken enough in our community about how actually
Nope.
traumatizing that is to the woman. Like, I think people are just too liberal with, there's like, oh, you just get it done and you're going to be fine. And you're right. And if this isn't about choosing like whether it is or it isn't, it's just, there are other stuff that's more deeper stuff that's going on that
There's
really is
so much
affecting
stuff.
us.
Absolutely.
And I remember I worked with my naturopath at the time, who did past life regressions and all this kind of stuff. And she said,
Mhm.
Nicole, the reason why this happened was the baby actually never intended to be born.
Mm.
It was never supposed to be your intention to go through it. It was here to clear the path to open you up to possibility having kids in the future, because I had never wanted kids. When I was in my 20s,
Mhm.
I was certain I was never going to have kids. I was like, I'm too
Mhm.
selfish. I don't want them, and then as soon as this happened, it changed everything for me. I was like, maybe I do want them.
Opened the path.
It
Yeah.
opened the path. And so it made a lot of
Yeah.
sense to me. So what are some of
Mhm.
the what are some of the messages that come through around this? Like, when it comes to the guilt,
Mhm.
okay, around an abortion, what have you heard from your spirit baby clients?
For my spirit baby clients now, of course, this can be different for other spirit baby mediums, but in my experience, there is a complete and total and utter forgiveness. Like, it's almost like there's nothing to forgive. It's like you have choice. I have choice. Everybody has choice. It's okay. It's okay. And I get it. I had one baby who was not angry, but sort of agitated because he wanted to be born, and was his response with, you know how some people, it's so interesting how babies are a lot like humans, you know, like in a body. Sometimes grief or sadness comes out as anger, and that's what this baby was like. He was like, I just, well, fine, you know, kind of like that. But as soon as the client said, oh my gosh, you are so welcome to be born. You're so welcome. I'm ready now. I've got this. Please come. Then he was like, oh, I can come still? You know, it was like this, it was a healing experience, right?
So it was just like this kind of really wanting to be wanted.
Really wanting to be wanted. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting. It's not common in the spirit baby realm. They're usually just so much love. That's all that's there. But this particular baby was like, well, fine then, you know, you don't want me, you know. And as soon as the mom was like, oh my gosh, absolutely, you can come, and then that lightened up so much. And it's just amazing. But most of the time when there is a choice made on the part of the parent to abort, the baby is like, that's your choice. It's okay. We can make this work. We can create different timing, or I need to move on to another family because I do need this particular time, and another soul can come in. So, but it really isn't this like, you are bad and you suck and you're going to go to hell. There's never, ever, ever anything like that. Anything that has come through in my experience.
That is so interesting to hear, because it's so difficult for any of us to understand what is actually being experienced on the other side by the soul that's choosing to come in, but then it's being canceled in a way, you know, like, so that I find is a very interesting. So how has that helped your clients, both with the miscarriage and abortion, with helping them move through any sort of blame, shame, grief, guilt, like all of those emotions that come up?
That's a really good question, because sometimes even hearing it from the other side, folks still hold on to self-blame. And because I, you know, sort of am on this bridge between psychotherapy and this spiritual realm, I often just recommend that folks do some psychotherapy, get some counseling to work through their own self-compassion. I recommend a website called selfcompassion.org by Kristen Neff. She's got a lot of free exercises on there to, you know, harness self-love and self-compassion. And I actually recorded a whole series in 2020. I didn't know this was going to happen, obviously, the pandemic, but January 2020, I started a whole self-compassion series, which people can see for free. It's a year long on my YouTube channel, Miracles Happen Fertility Center.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, so I recommend folks do some self-compassion work and self-forgiveness and self-love work. But hearing it from the other side, from the baby, it kind of jumpstarts it. You know, it's a way to begin the rewiring of the brain. There's a psychotherapy part of me, because all trauma is wired, right? And the body holds memory for it, and the brain holds memory for it. And so when you hear that the other person is like, dude, I'm cool, then it's like much easier to say, okay, I can let this go now. But still, why does it feel so bad? Oh, because I need to have different thoughts about it. And so you begin doing some work on yourself for releasing that.
Okay, now here's another question just popped in. The grief and the blame and the shame that that a mother may feel, and even maybe a father, because, you know, like, yes. When it comes to, let's just say with the miscarriage, of feeling like there was something wrong with me or I did something wrong, does that actually hinder the fertility process of the baby actually coming through, another baby coming through, or the right space for the body to actually be fertile enough to hold pregnancy?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. Just on a physical level, holding that much tension creates, fight or flight response, which takes energy and blood and everything away from the reproductive organs, and also non-essential organs like digestion and things. So a lot of people have stomach troubles, they have elimination issues, fertility issues, right? So it's all these non-essential organs, non-essential. But once there is a release and acceptance and an ease and a peace around it, then we re-engage the parasympathetic nervous system, and those non-essential functions can reconvene. But from a spiritual level, now we're talking like huge, just global change, because how you are energetically, I'll just say energy, because even like the spirit word is sometimes a little too much for people, but on an energetic level, when you change your vibration, it changes everything around you. This is why people say you need to start with yourself first, right? Because when you change yourself and how you're expressing yourself, everybody else feels it and picks up on it. You begin to tune into, this is what I love, you begin to tune into the things that fit you and fit your circumstance. So instead of, for me, it was like going to see the same fertility doctor. I'm going to just make it work. But I, when I quieted down, I honored that he was an asshole.
Good job, Maria.
Yes. And I moved on.
Yes.
I moved on to another, what felt better to me. And that's just a small part of the story, but you begin to make different decisions that fit you, and you begin to move through life with ease and with peace, and with, I know this sounds sort of cliche, but like with a sense of gratitude. Like when I tell you that one of my favorite eye-opening moments when I began to heal was sitting down in my backyard among lavender bushes and watching the bumblebees on the lavender. That was like the most amazing gift. Everything was a gift. Everything was beauty. Everything was exactly as it needed to be. All the hardship, all the love, all the joy, all the things that sucked, and all the things that were beautiful. It was all beautiful. And when you begin to emanate that, the things that match that make their way to you. And we're talking about like manifesting right now. But so when you begin to forgive yourself for supposed transgressions that likely didn't even exist from a miscarriage or an abortion, you begin to really release and then draw in the things that are going to match fertility. They're going to match the right treatment if you choose treatment. They're going to match the right partner. They're going to match all the things for bringing these souls forward.
Wow. Yeah. I like to call it frequency fertilizer. So it's almost like, the higher your frequency, you get to kind of fertilize everything around you, and like you'll start to see things growing in the fertility of like your own like frequency. So
that is exactly, how perfect is that?
That's why it's like, if you want to change the world, every footstep you take on this planet, you leave an imprint, or like, and I mean like even in just your energetic signature. And what is your energetic signature and what is that frequency? Because it literally can change things. So have you ever experienced any sort of messaging coming through if a baby is coming in prematurely, like it's coming in too soon?
Not too soon, but soon. So for example, I had a baby say that he needed to be a certain sign, a certain astrological sign, but it didn't match up. And so I said, you may want to just be aware that this baby may be a few weeks early. I have not had any baby say to me that they were going to be too early, such that they wouldn't survive. So it's not impossible though. It's not impossible. I just haven't had it personally. Other spirit baby mediums may have, but I have not.
So yeah, so we are literally choosing like our astrological like makeup, that energetic imprint in the sky for a lot of like how we're going to
Yes.
well, it's not just about our own personality, but it's also about the challenges we're going to face in our life, the things that are going to work
That's
out
right.
easier for us. All of that is in the signature of the sky when we're born to some degree. I don't think it's the only thing, but that definitely has an influence.
Absolutely. And the parents to whom we're born have an impact as well. Whether, you know, for example, my parents divorced. I said when I was 3, my dad was never really around. That was actually really useful for my life path. Very useful. I needed that.
Yeah.
You know, these babies choose, gosh, so many babies have said, I'm choosing you because you've been through what I'm going to go through. So I need you to be able to move through this and learn these things so that you can teach me and hold my hand through it. It's like countless how many babies have said this. So yes, it's in the stars, it's in our parents' stars. It's all, and it's very complicated. I'm sure I'm like tip of the iceberg, not somebody way smarter than me knows more about this, but yeah, this is what babies
no,
say.
it sounds like, you know, we could go into a whole mix of different variables here that could come up. Has the baby ever come through when you know, for like say for infertility, where they have advice for the mom or the father on like helping them become more fertile?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. In fact, okay, top 2 questions. When are you coming? And what do I need to do to make you come? Like now, what do I need to do? Right. So the when question, when you're working in the realm of possibility, like quantum physics is, right? It's all the realm of possibility. All I can do is say what the baby is saying right now from this realm of possibility right now. This can change like tomorrow or in an hour or in 6 months. You know, it can change. So it's very difficult, even though baby is saying, I want to be born here, or I think I'm going to be born here, I'm going to be conceived here. I mean, it's very difficult to say that.
I mean, it kind of works down here the same way too. It's like, you know, you're in a certain timeline, and given all the choices that you made, this is like what's kind of showing up as all the possible potentials. But as soon as you make a different choice or you experience something different, that could completely start to shift the timelines in different ways. New ones could pop up, some could drop away. Like it's just the way it happens.
It is.
That's why predicting anything is so difficult.
It really is. From this point on, this is where you're headed. That's, you know, I can only talk about trajectory, not what is going to happen. But in terms of like the concrete, eat this food, exercise this way, you know, those kinds of things. Yeah, babies talk more in terms of energy. So for example, they will say, you know, eat more, you know, red foods, but it's more because the color red, the first chakra is significant in some way. There's something in the energy field that needs to change by eating these particular foods. That's an example. So it's the same way that they communicate with us with physical objects. All we have is what's on the planet, right? So they need to use those things in order to convey messages. So if you see, you know, a bunch of butterflies flying by and that's meaningful for you because somebody's on the other side and it resonates with that person, that is probably them, because they need to use what's here to convey messages to us. So yeah, they will say things like, you know, why did you give up running? You love running. It's so much self-love for you. Why did you give it up?
That's a big one, because women get so scared that they're going to do some sort of damage or cause like a premature, like, or cause a miscarriage. Like there's so many fears that a woman has around that.
Yes. The main thing though, the main message is, you know, it feels good to you to do this thing. Why are you listening? Why are you giving your power away to somebody else? I don't care if they have an MD. I don't care if they have a PhD. I don't care if they have a DO. It doesn't matter. You know, you're the MD for your own body, right? You know, it feels right to you. Other people have said, I once worked, this is not spirit baby work, but I worked with a counseling client whose doctor said, you need to stop running. And she was like, she was an avid runner. She trained for 2 marathons a year. And she said, I have to give up running. How am I going to handle my stress and this and that? And we worked on that. And she began running again, and it felt good to her. It felt good to her. And then just before a cycle, she was like, oh, it doesn't feel good anymore. And I can tell inside it doesn't feel good anymore. So she stopped running.
She listened to herself. She listened to her body.
She listened to herself.
Yeah.
She just walked the dog. The cycle was effective. She now has a beautiful boy who's like maybe 8 now. It's crazy, but it's nuts. But she listened to herself. And that's the point. When babies talk about, yeah, do this, do this, do that, it's more like, this feels right to you. So do it. Do it, do the thing, because as fertility clients or fertility people, we want to do all the things possible, eat this food, exercise this way, travel to such and such country to pray to the fertility god statue, like whatever. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just tell me. But babies are really clear. They align with my own messaging, actually, where it's like, you need to focus on what feels right to you. So gather all the information. Yeah, this doc says this nutritionist says that, this fertility coach says this and this and this. Out of all these things, what feels good to me? And I'm going to do those things.
I think that's
what
great.
babies say.
Yeah. And I think that's, I would feel like that's the most relevant advice to give someone. It feels right. It feels like that's what anyone should do, because it's the natural inclination. And,
Yes.
Sorry, they're chopping the wood again. Okay. Question. Because I believe that these babies are somehow influencing parents to choose their name. Have you gotten any information?
Yes. Oh gosh, so much. Yes. And actually, names have a lot of influence on our life path. There's a whole training on names and how to read someone's name chart. It's like, you probably know about it. It's so fascinating. And yes, they do. So I have a lot of trouble. So I'm clairvoyant. I see images, I see movies, I see things flashing in front of me. I have a hard time with clairaudience, hearing. Sometimes I'll hear music or things like that, but when people are trying to say a name, or babies are trying to say a name, it's very difficult. It sounds like, my name is Maria. It sounds like that. You can kind of tell-ish that I said my name is Maria, but it's very difficult. It's very muffled. So I will often ask for either show me visually the name, or can you just say one syllable, one sound? Because sound is such a beautiful tool for healing and wellness. Sound is very, very useful. And so I will ask for a sound in their name. They will give me a vowel sound or a consonant sound. It doesn't matter, but they'll give me either a single syllable or maybe 1 or 2 syllables. Rarely, I'll get a very clear name. Sean. This baby's name is Sean. For example, that came through a couple of years ago. And I remember it because it's my brother's name. But yeah, so it's very rare that I get a very clear name. More often than not, it's like an initial or like a syllable.
Have you ever had anyone come through like, we're not really digging the names you and dad are choosing right now, or like leaning towards? Have you ever gotten that?
I haven't had that yet.
Okay.
I suppose that's going to happen, but I think because parents probably come up with these names because their babies are influencing them.
Yes, yeah. I believe that too. Because I wonder, there's some people that really just can't stand their name. They can't stand their name. And I've often wondered, like, has it been one of those instances where the parents just completely got it wrong, or did you really choose it and for a specific reason? Maybe you just weren't supposed to like your name. Like, I don't know, like, who really knows, right?
Yeah, it could be a variety of reasons, just like all these other questions, right? I mean, another answer to that might be the name fit when this person was a child, and now they've grown and
That's
learned and
true.
changed, and so now it doesn't fit anymore,
Yeah,
right?
that
And
makes a lot of
so,
sense too.
yeah.
Okay, what about, have any babies come through with any kind of comments about the health status of the relationship between the parents to be?
Mhm. Yes. Oh, yes, for sure.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Are they already playing therapist?
They don't. So here's the thing. Babies don't judge at all. There's just no like, you need to be better to him, and he needs to be better to you, or vice versa. They don't really say that. They just talk about their own life plan and if this fits or not. They will make comments around, you know, so and so is my dad, but they're married to somebody else or together with somebody else, right? And so they'll give I'm thinking of one in particular, but I don't want to give away specific, because confidentiality is very important. So I don't talk too many specifics. So I can't really tell this story without divulging too much information. But the baby was very kind of clear, not kind of, very clear. This person here, not this person. And it can be confusing.
Oh, like to change the parent? Like, really?
Now, here's what's interesting. The person that I'm working with already knows. They already know.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think that it would be like a what's going on?
Shock.
Like, never saw that one coming.
Yeah, it's not usually a shock. They know, and it's just confirmation.
Okay.
And it's a very, very hard decision. I mean, it's very difficult, right? So, but yeah, they will make comments about it.
Wow. And do they like to offer suggestions on like the setup of their space, their environment in the home? Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had one who was very adamant about a particular stuffed animal. It was a little blue giraffe. It's like, I'm gonna find this online. I can see it clearly in my head, and I'm gonna email you the link. And she's like, okay. So she picked up that little stuffed animal. It was like $5 or something. But yeah, they were very clear about that. A lot of babies are actually into sensory things. So they'll ask for certain textures in their space. But more often than not, babies are really interested in color. They resonate with a certain color. So if folks have read the book Spirit Babies by Walter McKitchen, he talks about that a lot in that book, where babies resonate with a particular color or colors.
Okay. That's so cool. I love how, because I'm sure that they're influencing the parents to some degree about like all of this. We just don't even realize that influence is even coming through, as like any sort of parent to be is picking out the colors of the nursery or like the particular blanket or whatever. So do you ever coach your clients into connecting with the spirit baby on their own to start a dialogue? And
I love that you asked this question, Nicole. Thank you. Yes, that is my main priority, actually, because I do not feel like I am the only one, or psychic mediums are the only folks who can connect with the other realm. I think that we all can. We're just educated out of it. And
I agree. Like my sense is that I feel like it's actually part of our innate abilities, especially as the mom, but also I believe the father has this as well, because I mean, it's part of you growing. And so it's part of just to have that connection and to already start the dialogue before they're born.
Yes.
And how successful are your clients with this? Are they actually able to make some breakthroughs?
Yes, absolutely. Because, the thing is, if you read a book like Spirit Babies by Walter McKitchen, that he talks about, here's how you can connect on your own. But when you see somebody, a psychic medium or a spirit baby medium, who can say specifically how your baby is communicating with you, then it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that was right. Like I had a client, this is in the very beginning, where I mentioned the baby was like, she's playing with the electronics in your house. Like, has the TV turned off on its own and on recently? And she's like, oh shit, just yesterday that happened. And I thought it was like just a weird thing. I'm like, well, it was a weird thing. It was a baby.
Yeah, I know.
Your baby's doing that, and you're going to see more of that. And so, they see more of that. And so now they know what to do. Like, oh, hi, baby, welcome to the house. I hope you enjoy it here, blah, 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 blah. Can you give me more signs? I ask people to be a healthy skeptic. And that means that you are not buying everything that I'm saying, but not discarding it immediately either, that you're open and you pay attention, so that you become your own researcher, really. So, okay, so the TV goes off. That could be an anomaly. Yeah. All right. So now you do your own research. Hey, baby, if that was you, can you show me ... And you add in your own thing. And so I say, if you ask for something and they show it to you 3 times, that's your evidence, man. That's it. That's your evidence. Consider that evidence. So, yeah.
No, I was going to say, it's like the memes that you see often of like, how many times, like, your angels or your spirit guides getting frustrated with you. Like, how many times do I need to give you the sign that you keep asking for?
Exactly. Hello. I'm right here.
Oh my goodness.
So yes, I am adamant about that. You don't need a medium. I'm here to help in the beginning. And, if you want validation in the future, that's great. But here are the tools, here are the signs. Be free and practice them. Go see them. And I do offer a training for people who want to go deeper into that. But my goal in a single spirit baby session is for people to walk away with not only communication, but with tools to communicate on their own. So yes, thank you for asking that.
No, yeah, I think that's great, because I think that's a lost skill that I think we're supposed to have. And I love that you're being able to bring that into more parents to be's lives, because I think it can really open up a lot of bonding as well. Like,
oh gosh, it so can.
Yeah.
I've had people say, I feel like I know, they have a baby. I feel like I know this baby already, right? And even in infancy, especially newborn, right? Like, babies are able to vocalize, and that's really kind of it. They'll move their eyes over some places that they're really focused on, but can they communicate in that really deep way? Not yet, right? But when you've learned to communicate with energy, with a soul, then you'll know instantly, my baby needs this. P.S. Animals are the same way. Animals are the same. Yes. This just happened. Side note.
Okay.
We were camping, and my little senior mini dachshund, Dexter, had a tooth infection. And here's my own experiment, my own research, right? Here's my left brain scientific side. I was like, I'm going to feel into this, and I'm going to go to the vet, and I'm going to see if I'm right. And so I felt into it, and I'm like, lower left jaw, and he's in a lot of pain because it's moving into his ear. That's what's going on. I'm just going to see. And so I took him to the vet. Yep. He's got an infection in a tooth in his lower left jaw. And he didn't say anything about the ear, but I asked about it. I was like, look, we were camping and we were driving through the mountains. And is it possible that there was a lot of pressure in there? That's why he was in a lot of pain. He's like, yeah, it can go into like the ear canal. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. Just like us, just like us.
Just like us.
We can start saving money on your vet bills.
I know. Well, I still needed the treatment. I couldn't treat it.
I know.
But you can communicate with your human babies this way, your fur babies this way. It's a lost skill. Everybody has it. I consider it a skill.
And I think it just takes some time. You got to have some compassion for yourself and some grace. Like, give yourselves the space to kind of maybe not know it all, but like to kind of get a few answers in and start warming yourself up. Final question.
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened. How has COVID, because it's a global event, how did that affect babies from deciding whether they would want to come in or not?
Holy cow, what a good question. Oh my God. Because I didn't expect this, to be honest with you, at all. But babies began coming to me because I started doing this in the middle of COVID, right? Like, I didn't expect this at all. Babies came to me because several people had experienced miscarriages, and they were like, what happened? I don't know. I didn't get COVID. I was very careful, blah, blah, blah. And babies talked about the only way, and I'm feeling it on my skin right now, the only way I can describe it is like this clawing energy. It's like a buzzing, really intense buzzing energy of the earth. And they just couldn't get through that onto the planet, or it didn't match their life plan. It could not work for them. There was one soul that said, that was way too, I'm a highly sensitive soul. It was way too much energy for me. I just couldn't do it. And they were actually quite chagrined, like, I'm so sorry. I really wanted to, but I couldn't. It was so jarring and uncomfortable. I can't even describe the feeling and the sound. It's awful. It's awful. Experiencing it on earth was awful too, but the way that these babies describe it, and all of them describe it to me the same way. It's this very thick, vibrating, intense energy, buzzing energy that's not a good kind of buzz. It was very uncomfortable. And so I feel a lot of souls delayed their conception and their birth until after that buzzing died down.
I don't blame them.
Yes.
I do not blame them one bit. But were there any ones though that actually chose to come in, like almost like it was like this like warrior kind of thing, like, yeah, I'm coming in now?
Yes. Or they just didn't disrupt their plans. Some souls were like, I need to come in to help elevate the vibration of this planet to a more loving, peaceful vibration. That's my job. That's my role. I need to do that. And so I'm not going to disrupt my plans. I'm going to come in. I hadn't met any souls that were like, I didn't intend to come in until 2 years from now, but I'm going to come in now. I didn't meet any souls like that, but that is entirely possible because I don't know the entire planet. I don't know everybody.
Yeah.
The souls that I met with, none of them said that, but it's entirely possible.
I think it would be entirely possible too. It's so fascinating. Well, what a fascinating conversation, Maria. I feel like I've learned so much, and it's really opened my mind to like all the different kind of conversations that are being had in the different realms around timing. The time, I mean, we say timing is everything down here. Clearly it is up there too. Clearly, it is. So there's a huge
It's interesting you say timing though, because for them, time is all right now. It's all right now. They don't kind of understand this linear, what do you mean? I'm right here. I'm already here. I'm in your life right now.
Yeah.
Here and now. I'm just not in a body. But does that matter? I don't get it. It's hard to describe time to them, but
but clearly, like if they're wanting to come in at a certain sign and under a certain astrological sign, or those kinds of things, then the timing clearly seems to be something. But of course, I get it. Like there is no time. There's like the no time.
Yes.
when you're out there. So what an interesting information you shared with us today, because I mean, we come up with our own narratives of why, and a lot of it is directed towards us as like the villain. Like we've done everything wrong. We'll always point the finger at ourselves when it comes to this sort of thing. And so I think what the work that you're doing is offering parents a lot of reprieve from the heaviness of the guilt and the shame and the blame that comes through either miscarriages or infertility in general. So I think you're doing fantastic work. Your clients must be so grateful for having you in their lives.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm just so lucky. I'm just so lucky to be able to do this work with them. It's beautiful. It's very fulfilling.
Well, I'm glad you got over yourself.
I know, right? Me too.
Glad you got over yourself. We got some more communicative babies now, and now we're creating more communicative parents. and parents to be. So I think it's great. And I know my audience is going to love this episode. I'm sure that they're just like, wow, about all the different information. If anyone in my audience might be interested in working with you, or they know someone who might, where can they find you? What have you got going on? I know you've got your podcast as well. Please let my audience know.
Yeah. The podcast has been going for a while now, several years. Miracles Happen Fertility podcast. It starts out, it's like there's this growth, right? So like it starts out very mental health focused, and the latter 6 or 12 months has been more spiritual focused, but there's always this metaphysical focus on the podcast. That's also, the video interviews are up on my YouTube channel, which I mentioned before, Miracles Happen Fertility Center on YouTube. And then you can just go to my website, drmariarothenburger.com, and that's Burger, Burger. And you can peruse the different kinds of sessions that I have there. If you are interested in psychotherapy, that is different. You can still go to that website, but there's a link if you want counseling to go to a different website. And I can only do that in New Jersey and Oregon. So we're unlicensed.
Thank you so much to my audience. Of course,
absolutely.
I'm going to leave all those links for you. Oh, which
you can't forget my book.
Yes, your book.
Fertility. Yes,
perfect.
That's #1 Amazon bestseller. Check it out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Maria, for being on the show. And to my audience, I'm going to drop all those links in the show notes for you. Guys, I love you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And of course, if you did, please leave a comment or leave a rating on the podcast. I would greatly appreciate it. I love you guys so much, and I'll be back with you next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.